the Shinobi podcast.
That was a very great choice.
Yes.
What to get the show started off with, man. I didn't know I needed that until just now. But we back, baby. We back. I got somebody new by my side. I got Mr. Smooth here. It's another episode of the Shinobi podcast. Episode number,
Yes,
I don't
sir.
even know at this point. We just in a groove and we moving, man. Our gears are moving.
Forward.
And we just making shit happen, man. Got a good friend of mine by my side, and I call him a friend. I don't use that word lightly at all, like lightly at all. But this man to my left, I definitely consider a friend, and I'm happy to have him here as a special guest on the Shinobi podcast. Our second special guest now, man. So we're gonna keep racking them up, man. Getting these good people in here. All right. So, Mr. Smooth, what you got to say to the people, man? How you want to start this thing off?
Man. Y'all know how we do already, man. Much love. Thank y'all for having us in the palm of y'all hand again. We excited, dog. This is, like you said, our second special guest right here. It's a toss up because, man, we were conflicted at first. Like when we were starting out with special guests, we were like, man, who do we need to bring on first? Like we were going through a list, and we're like, man, we gotta start somewhere. So
here we are.
This is still big right here, man. So we appreciate you. We appreciate you coming on, giving us your time for sure. So
he was on the short list. We made a short list, and he was on it. And we're gonna keep racking them up, man.
Sir.
So we appreciate you being here. Go ahead and introduce yourself, man. Let people know who you are.
Absolutely. What's up? George here from Pointy Ear Training. Thank you, because I feel the same way about Shinobi. Best friend here, like really good friend, amazing person, dude. He's made a lot of things happen behind the scenes with him, probably not even knowing. And first time meeting Mr. Smooth, so it's an honor to be here. Thank you so much for inviting us like I'm multiple people.
It's all good. It's all good there. What let me ask you this. What was your first impression? Like, where'd you first meet Shinobi? What was your first impression of him?
Oh shit.
Oh snap. This was back in the day, man. I couldn't even pinpoint the year exactly because those years were kind of wild and a blur. You know what I mean?
Tell me about it.
And so one of my good friends, Giovanni, he lived with him. He was one of his roommates, and you know that's one of my really, really good friends, like a brother. So I was going over his house all the time, like on a daily basis almost. You know, just popping in, saying what's up, chilling with them, hanging out, because it was, I think, a house full of like 4 other people. So
it was 5 of us in that bitch,
and they were all my homies. So like I was just going over to see the homies. Like no matter what, someone was home, so I would just be like, "Hey, what's up?" And I would show up and hang out for like long periods of time. And he lived there, so I would just see him often, you know, very often. And then at that time, we were 100% strangers, bro. You know. And I just remember him being like this dude that would go outside and he would just like be doing martial arts shit and just fucking training out there every day almost. Like every time I saw him like doing some fucking shit in the backyard, I was like, what's up with this guy? Man? You know, like, just like I was like, is this his thing? Like, and then obviously the homie is like, yeah, you know, he does martial arts and this and that. And he starts explaining his story. And how at that time, I think he was still going to firefighter school, I believe.
I think it might have been in paramedic school.
It was paramedic school. Yes.
That's a long time then. That was a long time ago.
Bro. And so I was like, all right, so you're into that. And, you know, we started talking about, you know, his interests. And all of a sudden our interests kind of became very similar. And we hung out more. And again, I was there at their house so often that, you know, he was probably seeing me on like at least a 3-day basis, you know, like, so we just got along, started hanging out after even, you know, everybody moved out and went their separate ways. And we see each other now, you know, because of adulthood. I don't know, maybe sometimes it's like, I feel like it's once a month, but it's a healing process, man. You know, it's always like a good talk anytime I come over or he comes over and we just get to chopping it up, man.
Well, I think it's funny how we didn't even really connect until everybody went their separate ways. Because when I was living there, we didn't really. I mean, we saw each other because we were in the same vicinity and knew the same people, but we didn't really like link and bond then.
Until
afterwards, I don't even know how it happened. Like looking back, I can't even like pinpoint when we like actually like had an in-depth conversation.
I'm not sure either.
Which led to something more.
I'm not entirely sure either, man.
But
I couldn't pinpoint myself.
It happened. And
I would have to think about it.
Yeah, it happened, and here we are, man. And it was I can say for myself, it was a relationship that I didn't ever know was gonna go anywhere.
I would agree. Yeah, we
know
were
what I'm saying?
very much acquaintances before we became really good friends.
No doubt.
So here we are, man. Growth. It's crazy,
Hey,
and it's crazy how sometimes a really close person brings you to another close person that started off as a stranger, bro.
Yeah.
As a complete stranger. Yeah. Just that dude that lived with the homie, And then all of a sudden I'm here, I share time with his family. It's, it's growth, bro. It's good.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
I think we
I like that.
Just like you and I, Smooth, like how you and I were part of one another's healing process, like in depth. There was a time when I would go over your house like at least once a week.
Yeah, for sure.
And we'd have like these weekly like
brainstorms.
Yeah, man. Brainstorms and conversations. And they were transparent and open, man. And that time period, I think we healed each other a lot through that time period. So I think something kind of attracted and brought us together as part of one another's healing process. And that process still continues now.
Every day, bro.
You know what I'm saying? But that's something that I noticed in regard to our relationship is we uplift one another. We lift one another up. You know what I'm saying? We lift one another out the mud and shit, because we know what it feels like to be there. And it's fucking nice to have a helping hand to fucking pull you up sometimes.
For sure, man.
If you start to slip, you know what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
So,
because you're so hard on yourself, the imposter syndrome, bro.
Yeah.
You're just so hard on yourself that you just, as I get older, I realize that you really need a good line of friends and community, let that be acquaintances, clients, buddies that you play golf with, buddies that you only drink with, but like all that is part of a healing process, and everybody helps you in each individual department. Everybody has a little role. You have friends that you just go golf with and have a good time, and every time you golf, maybe it's every 6 months, every month, every 2 weeks, whatever it is, you get to chopping it up, and it's always a good chop up. But we became more than just that, it was, and it's at this point, man, like I'm gonna see this man as like part of my family, bro.
I already consider him family, no doubt.
Yeah, like
there's no question.
It's incredible too that you get to see that you get to bond with other people in a deeper way that some people that are blood, not necessarily taken away from that, but sometimes you're just closer with a friend than you are your own relatives, and that's just because I think of openness and all of these departments that come together and make a friendship be different, and I think that's also why long friendships are so idolized. They're rare, they're not so common.
Definitely. I think also both of us, we're strong men that had no problem being vulnerable with one another.
Oh yeah, that's a big one.
Like we didn't feel like that took away from our manhood.
Absolutely.
To like truly express what the fuck we really feeling. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. And that's a hard one. Yeah. As a person, as a man, even harder, I think.
Yeah.
Because there's like judgment from society, from women, from our own like other male acquaintances and friends and whatnot. So it's hard, man. It's hard to be vulnerable in front of other people in general. And it's nice to be able to sit down with somebody and just chop it up and be real. Like that's really what it comes down to. It's just being real and open. And sometimes it's really nice that I sit down and I chop shit up with him, and he'll listen, and then at the end he's like, all right, like, so this is what I think you're doing good, this is what I think you're doing great, and this is where I think you're fucking up. And it's important to have that. It's very important to have that because that allows growth on both parts, because you're like, you're obviously receptive because of the openness, and if someone's saying something that is not trying to harm you in any way, shape, or form, then it's something like you need to listen to, take into account, and then see if that's going to help you grow. And there's probably been plenty of times that I come back and I'm like, yeah, dude, you were right, man. That's exactly what I needed to do, bro. And thank you for that advice. Thank you for that guidance, you know? So just appreciative of all that stuff, man, and how we've seen each other grow and become different people, basically, you know?
Well, the thing is, I'm older than you, and I've fucked up a lot more. I've had a lot more time to fuck up than you. So, so I might know what I'm talking about on some things. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, for sure.
Because
Definitely.
if I'm definitely if I'm giving advice or anything, it's probably because I've been in a situation or I've done it and I've experienced it and I've had my own, experience with it, and I can tell you about what happened through my experience, and then hopefully whatever you take from that, you can take it with you and it can be valuable to you. You know what I'm saying?
Ooh, you don't want to know something crazy too? Because of dog training, I met my mentor through Giovanni, which is a friend that he lived with.
Yeah.
I met my mentor through him because he hired him as a dog trainer. And at the time, like, I was just talking about, I want to do something with dogs. I'm not sure what, but I really like dogs. And I had my own dog, and it's actually a really good dog now. But at that time, super leash reactive, super people reactive, like German Shepherd. So people were scared of the dog, saw someone else, bark, 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 bark. And it's intimidating, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that's kind of what got me into dog training in general, because I wanted to start to educate myself on how can I fix this dog, because I'm a punk 20-something-year-old with a German Shepherd. No one's going to want to rent to me, you know? Because that was the biggest fear. I was like, I need to have this dog in check, because if they ever put up a fight with, oh, it's a German Shepherd, I could be like, listen, I'll show you how well trained the dog is.
Yeah.
That was the whole entire goal behind that, which is really, really, really funny. Like, that just kind of sparked that, by the way. I didn't really think about it until now that I'm flowing with it, but yeah. It was literally like, that was my biggest fear. I was like, dude, I'm not going to find somewhere else to rent. Like, this is going to be terrible. So I wanted to fix my own dog.
So that was fucking survival instinct kicking in, and you adapted
to the situation.
Yeah, you adapted to your situation so you could, survive in the best way possible.
Absolutely. With my dog.
Yes,
you know what I mean?
Yes,
like,
yes.
With my dog. Like, that was the important part. I was like, all right, man, like, this is it. Like, we've committed. We've committed. And the only way we can get out of this, because at the time when I had the dog, they were okay with me having the dog. So it wasn't a big deal. But I rent. So, you go through situations where people sell their house, like, they evict you for whatever reason, maybe because you have a dog, like, whatever. So I always was at that like time period jumping around kind of houses and stuff, like every 6 months to a year, because of that reason, renting and stuff. So I wanted to get the dog in check because I knew I was going to eventually move. It could have been tomorrow, next week, in a month. So you're totally right. It was definitely survival mode of like, I have to get this dog in check. Like, I put it upon myself to commit to this dog's life. I have to have a better dog so I can expose her to different people. So my friends aren't scared to come over because the dog's barking like crazy, So, and it's a big dog. So I wanted to fix it and started just reading and reading books about behavior, reading online, watching a bunch of Cesar Millan. But even when I was younger, I watched so much Cesar Millan when I was younger. I loved it, man.
Me too. I didn't give a shit about dogs, but that show had me, boy.
Yeah. Boy,
that show had me, bro.
For sure.
Episode after episode. I used to binge it before binging was a thing.
I watch it today. I still watch it today.
Yeah.
Absolutely. It's like a major goal to be at that guy's level. He's an icon, man. And take away the popularity, he's really doing crazy stuff for animals, man. You see his ranch on the new Disney Plus Cesar Millan show, and he has like alpacas and goats, and so he's really like dedicating his life to the end goal of saving animals.
Yeah.
Like, that's also what got me into dog training, because I know German Shepherds go through the same problem Pit Bulls, Dobermans, Rottweilers, and all these aggressive breeds go through, where they get put down. So me as a German Shepherd lover, the goal was the goal still is, let's get all this stuff together and maybe buy property so we can get kennels and like start rehabilitating dogs that are in shelters, and seeing if they foster out, and if they don't, maybe keep them, or figure a situation out where you're helping the breed, because they go through so many shelters and they get put down so often. And I'm not just being breed specific. I want to kind of target the aggressive breeds, because they're already targeted through apartments won't let you rent. Some HOAs won't let you rent if you have those dogs. So unfortunately,
for the people out there, can you give them a few examples on what are considered the aggressive breeds?
I don't know the list off top, but I know you'll have your German Shepherds, your Pit Bulls, Rottweilers, Dobermans. I believe sometimes Huskies are on there too. But
so there's an actual list.
Yeah, there's an actual list that you could probably look up individually by state, if not by like the whole country, that they're commonly denied by HOAs or apartment complexes. Which that's like crazy too, because that's kind of started an epidemic of ESA dogs or service dogs that aren't trained, that people are just getting the paperwork for them so they can find somewhere to rent. And then since they have the vest, they just start taking them places, and those dogs aren't trained. So it's it's a whole like vicious, weird cycle, dude. So just out here trying to help the dogs, man. That's it.
I wanted to ask you, what about the German Shepherd attracts you to that specific breed?
That's what I was going to ask too.
So I think when I was younger, I used to say that it was because they looked like a wolf. So I'm pretty sure that's really what it stems from. But I also, one of the things that I remember from being really, really, really little, like 4 or 5 years old, we owned German Shepherds back in Mexico. And I remember owning those German Shepherds. Like, I remember feeding them. I remember seeing them up because we kept them on the roof. And I remember just like, I think that's like what kind of imprinted on me the love for German Shepherds. Because
makes sense.
That's one of my earliest memories that I have, to the point where my family members sometimes are like, I don't even know how you remember that. Like, you were super young. Super young. I don't know. I remember.
It made an imprint on you, that's for sure.
Absolutely. Yeah. So I think it's the combination of those things.
Now, how is a German Shepherd temperament? Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, I was getting ready to ask. You beat me to this question. You beat me to both questions on it. Go ahead, you go.
For the people out there that are thinking about getting a German Shepherd, maybe there's somebody out there that thinks a German Shepherd looks like a wolf and they want to get one.
So
what should they know?
More than anything, if you're thinking about getting any type of dog, you should really thoroughly research the breed and if that breed matches your lifestyle. Because German Shepherds are dogs that want to constantly work. German Shepherds are known to have leash and people aggression if you don't focus that aggression per se, or that drive. It's really a drive towards something else, because that dog needs to be fed in a way that maybe another dog isn't. And what I mean by fed is stimulation of the mind. So maybe it wants to play tug of war every day, and that's how it gets stimulus. Maybe it wants to play fetch every day, but it wants a job. It's one of those working line dogs that they need a job. They need a job to function. They need something to give them purpose. And if you don't give them purpose, that's when they kind of go down a spiraling circle of, aggression or possessiveness maybe. So these are all problems that come with the breed sometimes, because people tend to be very weak on their dogs. And what I mean by weak is they won't even give it any sort of correction. And correction sometimes can be a posture, just posturing your dog in a way, making eye contact, making sure you're letting the dog know, hey, back up, and I'm not backing down from this. That could be a correction, because body language is crazy. And you can communicate with your dog through body language. So there's tons of methods that you can do and use. And people tend to buy a dog just in general without the information that they need to purchase said dog. They go off aesthetics. And that's something I did. Okay, I aesthetically love the dog, but what's up with it? So I started looking up, people bring these problems up. If you're a first-time dog owner, it's probably not a dog for you, because you kind of need to understand the dog better before being able to properly handle it, honestly. And that stems from like understanding dog body language and all these different things that if you're not exposed to a dog, you wouldn't understand it, you know? And some people, and that's why I get hired, because people are living with their dogs every day and they're showing them different body language, or like specific body language, I should say, that should be corrected, and it's going over their head. You know, they don't, they're like, we work this every day and they sit down every time we say sit, but anytime we get close to its toy, it growls. That's, you know, that's pretty unacceptable in my book. You know, a dog should not be growling at me. I feed it, I give it shelter, I give it love. I love that thing. It should not be growling at me, you know? So these are little mistakes that if you're not aware of what you're getting, and that could be with any working line breed. You could get a Belgian Malinois, a German Shepherd, a Doberman, again, Rottweilers. These dogs, like, I don't think the problem is aggression. I think the problem is not knowing what avenue to take with those specific strong breeds that require either a job or a strong handler. And if you don't consider yourself a strong handler, maybe you should look into more of a golden retriever. You know, there's other options for different lifestyles. Because the moment that you purchase a dog, now you've committed your life to not knowing that you need to dog train. Because you romanticize the idea of having a puppy and you're going to work on all this, and then you're going to wake up one day and your dog's perfectly trained. But what you don't understand is that as a human, you commit empathetic mistakes throughout the puppy's life. And what I mean by that is simply the puppy jumping up on you, right? It's super cute. And it's a 3-month-old puppy, 2-month-old puppy. What do we do? Yay! Oh my God. Oh my God, yay! We pet the puppy, right? We get super happy every time it jumps up on you. And at that point, it's jumping on you and it's hitting, you know, maybe your legs or the bottom of your knee. No big deal, right? Cute. But then when you buy some of these big breeds and then you start getting the dog used to, every time I jump up on you, I get affection. Now you have a 120-pound dog or 200-pound dog, if it's a Mastiff, that's trampling over people. That's what I mean by the little empathetic mistakes that we make as humans that we don't see in the long run of that dog's life. And then that's why I eventually get hired, because I come in and I'm like, hey, you know, how long have you been feeding him affection when he jumps? And they're like, oh, since he was a puppy. I'm like, and you want him to stop jumping? You know, and then people click. That face that you made, literally people will click like that, you know? And it's because it's counterintuitive and people don't see it until the problem is there and they don't know how to fix it. You know, and these could be dogs that, like I said, they've taught them how to sit and they know the command, but that doesn't mean it does it every time. And because it's learned that it doesn't have to listen to you, you know? It's learned that it can make choices itself. So
sounds like kids.
It is very similar. It is very similar. And I've seen some psychologists compare dog psychology with children's psychology and how they go hand in hand to a certain age, obviously. That if the dog and the kid don't find structure within like its pack, they seek to find structure themselves. And that doesn't mean they're like fit to lead, because obviously in this case, this is a companion that is a canine subspecies, right? We have a evolved frontal lobe. So it's up to us to train the dog properly and understand how it works, what to do. You know, what breed am I getting? Is that something I can handle? Is that something that I might need a dog trainer right off rip? You know, I have this dog, I'm getting it, I like it. Okay, well, do you like take into accounting dog training because it's a strong breed? You know, is it something you can handle as a first-time dog owner? Is it something that you can handle with a full-time job? Or, you know, there's different scenarios where you have to ask yourself, do I have enough time to even purchase a puppy, for example? Because puppies are literally like toddlers. You have to watch them all day long, in order to correct certain behaviors that you don't want. You know, and it's time. It's time that you have to put in to watching your dog. Oh, it's going to go, you know, it looks like it's looking to go potty. Take it outside. The moment it goes outside and it pees on the grass, give it a treat. But you know, as a human, you start getting distracted. You start watching TV. All of a sudden, the dog has been sniffing for a little bit. You haven't noticed because you're watching TV, and then boom, pees inside. You know, little things that happen because it's a puppy, and puppies have to be watched. They have to be supervised. You know.
Let me ask you this. Why do you think that people humanize their dogs and don't treat them as the creature that they are?
I think because they have a misconception of the dog. You know, they think that the dog speaks English. You know, a lot of people think that they understand. What they understand is body language. So if you're getting excited and you're showing excitement, the dog's going to get excited with you. You know, there's different body language to certain cues. And so what ends up happening is people humanize them in like terms of how they treat it. They treat it like a child, and it's not a child, it's a predator. So when you humanize it, you're completely confusing the dog. And that's where you see certain dogs that have social awkwardness within the dog world, and they don't know how to talk dog. The dog's overly friendly. Yeah, well,
wait, say that again.
So people think that the dog speaks English, and then they get lost in humanizing because of that concept, in my opinion, right? That they see it as another human, and then the dog starts to see itself as a human, right? Instead of a dog, to the point that the dog has social awkwardness at like dog parks or even meeting another dog. And what I mean by that is the dog is overly friendly, right? And people are like, oh, it's okay, he's overly friendly. Yeah, well, that's not part of like their genetic composure, my dog. Like that is completely separate. Like they should not be coming up and just rushing up on people. Just us as people, even like break it down to logic of people to people. If I just start, hey, how we doing? Hey, how you doing? You good? Hey, hi, hey, my name's George. Hey, how you doing? And I just start touching you and being weird, you're gonna be like, what is going on with this dude? What is going on with it? Is he okay? And dude, I see it at dog parks all the time. I can tell the dogs that are humanized and probably haven't had a lot of dog to dog interactions because of that lack of social knowledge with other dogs, where they start to get too aggressive, they start to hump, they start fights, and it just becomes an awkward environment for everybody in that dog park because of that one dog. You know, and it's even worse if there's two or three. And that's where dog fights happen at dog parks. Dogs just don't know dog to dog communication. And then boom, granted, there's obviously other variables like people going in there with a knowingly aggressive dog. Like, yeah, man, maybe you shouldn't have done that, you know? But from what I've seen and I observe in most dog parks is it's always the dogs that don't know how to talk to other dogs that start a dog fight. And it's because of lack of that interaction that they get too pushy, and they don't understand that the dog's posing the dog in a certain way where it's saying, back off, don't come any closer. And the dog continues to be pushy.
Now, do you mean like too pushy as far as when you said being all excited and
that
in the face?
The thing is, like, it's crazy because that could be it. It could be down to just sniffing. If I'm like, if the dog is in a certain pose where ears are up, tail is up, he looks like he's expanding his chest, that's a little aggro, and he's trying to tell the dog, back off, I don't want you in my space right now. And those dogs, sometimes it could be literally just sniffing, that they continue to sniff their hinds because it gets weird. That's not normal. If a dog is smelling another dog's hinds and like just like ribs and like random areas, that's not normal. That's not a normal behavior or a normal dog to dog interaction. The dog's being weird. Normal dog to dog interaction, if you ever see it, they get together, they sniff the butt, and then once it's cool, then like they individually sniff butts, and then usually there's what we call a play bow, where they'll
I've seen that. Yeah.
And then they stop and they look at each other, and then once the other dog gives the okay, boom, and then they start going, and then whatever, right? And then they get the zoomies in the park. That is proper dog to dog interaction. And you probably seen it and you don't even know. Right? Look at Mr. Smooth. He's like, what the heck is going on right now? This dude just blew my mind. This dude just blew my mind. Exactly, dude. So little mistakes that we make as humans when we empathize the dog are what ends up making some of these dog behaviors escalate and just get worse and worse. And I don't know if this is an empathy thing or just a ego thing, but most people won't immediately find a dog trainer when they see something irregular. You know, they let it evolve until it's a problem that might become aggression, or the over happiness. You know, Fifi the golden retriever was overly happy and then knocked over grandma. So now we have to find a dog trainer because grandma broke her wrist. Grandma broke her wrist because the dog was too overly friendly. You know, and they wait until those moments to find a dog trainer. And they're like, oh, something, you know, if I don't get this fixed, I don't know what we're gonna do. The family's going crazy. My wife's gonna kill me. My husband's gonna kill me. Like, you know, there's always a weird dynamic.
That'll go into my next question. What are some of the consistencies you've experienced with pet owners as to why they need your services?
Oof, I think I kind of like touched up on that in the last like stuff I've been talking about, because it's just like small details that if you're not aware of dog to dog communication or even dog body language, they're going to go over your head, and you're not going to get that the dog might be trying you as an authority figure. You know, as part of the hierarchy, you're supposed to be above the dog, and that doesn't mean you're like the alpha, right? Because look at it this way. Was your mom or your dad the alpha? No, right? It was a joint agreement of mom and dad, right? And then you have your aunts and uncles, right? Because you couldn't talk back to your aunts and uncles, right?
Nope.
Same concept, same respect level, basically, right? There's a hierarchy, and then you had your cousins and siblings, and you know, that's who you roughhouse around and you talk shit about, right? Same concept when it comes to dogs, man. Like, you and the dog are not equal. If you were equal, the dog would be out getting fucking money for rent. You know? So
real shit. Real shit.
So granted, there is people that make money off their dogs, but guess what? Those are usually dog people. Like, they're doing some sort of search and rescue, some sort of what's it called? When they sniff and they find, like, just search and rescue, I guess. Yeah. That's one. Detection, bomb detection. Like, people have jobs for dogs. Like, genuinely have jobs. And they're outside of law enforcement. They're outside of the military. These are people that have dedicated their basically life sometimes to the understanding of dogs, and I like this, so I'm going to do this. And that comes down to even sport. Some people just strictly do sport, and sport is dogs that go through a drill. They have to bite a sleeve. I can't remember exactly the exact rules of it, but there's rules and regulations around it, and the dog has to do those drills. And some people are dedicated to that, and then they understand dogs so well because they've been exposed to so many dogs over so many years. So I think it's lack of knowledge, man. I think it's lack of knowledge. You just, you know, we're purchasing people. We just want something. We get it. You know, we save up for it. We get it. And before we purchase it or buy it, we don't really do our research properly. And that happens with dogs, man. That happens with dogs all the time. And it doesn't come down to just small and large dogs. It's every single dog you can think of. You know, like, it's literally every single dog you can think of usually has some sort of problem. And people usually don't address it. It gets worse. Some people get a trainer. Some people end up getting their dogs put down, unfortunately. And for me, the reason why I joined this, or the reason why, like, what fuels me wanting to keep doing this is dogs get put down all the time. And if I can just take some and rescue them and know that I've gave them a better life and a better opportunity, I think that's just like the end goal, man. The end goal is just trying to get some of these dogs out of the shelters, helping people understand dogs a little bit better so they don't have to give up their dog. You know, like, that's the end goal. Because one of the most precious things to me is my dog, because they got me through so many things. Like, my dog's been with me since I think I was 22. And so I'm 29 now, about to be 30. And it's been a long time, man. You know, it's been a long time. And we've gone through breakups. We've gone through different houses. We've gone through, dude, hell and back, you know? Like, we've gone through awkward situations, you know? Just the whole nine, me and the dog. So it's like there's a really big bond between me and the dog. So it's one of my, you know, personal things that I love beyond just materialistic, you know? because your dog's your property, but you don't love it like you love your computer, or you don't love it like you love your car. You know, it's a different concept. So I'm just trying to help the people out, man. That's the end goal here.
Yeah.
The dogs and the people, man. And at first I thought I was going to get into it because of the dogs, but it's more of a people thing, man. Now the more I deal with dog situations, I go in and I'm like, the dog's just being a dog, man. Look, watch, let's do this. And just because of the understanding between the association of me and the dog and what's going to happen, the dog gets what's going on almost immediately. Because when I come in and I give your dog a correction, such like poking it and hissing at it, going, the dog's like, what the heck's going on? What was that? Because it's never gotten a correction in its life. So me simply doing that, the dog's like, all right, bro, what's up? Well, I don't know what that was. No one's ever done that. I don't know what that was. I'm going to stop right here. What do you want me to do? Sit? I sit. And it's simple like that, man. It's simple like that. And they're predators and people lose sight of that, but it's education, man. It's education. Just educate yourself on the breed and make sure it's the right one for you. And if you love it because of aesthetics, find yourself a dog trainer. Find yourself a good dog trainer, maybe even a dog trainer that specializes in that breed. If you like a King Corso, look for a King Corso dog trainer. You like German Shepherds, go for a German Shepherd dog trainer. Whatever you can find that's relating. If you want the same breed, he probably knows what he's doing because he owns them. He has multiple. Maybe he breeds. So that's how I feel about that. That's my input.
Okay. So I want to dive into. Go ahead, Mr. Smooth.
Let me. What is like a? So we talked about like anxiety parts for dogs. Is this like a myth? Is this a fact? So like hugging dogs, like when you first meet them, anything like that, immediately hugging them, does that give them like a euphoric state of like, oh, okay, I feel loved by this stranger, or is it like a hey, I don't know what's going on here, but I'm gonna just sit still kind of thing and look,
I think that stems from temperament, and some dogs might not be able to handle strangers. You might have to expose them to a lot of strangers to get them past that weird stranger's sensation to get the dog to be able to get hugged by a stranger. Because that's all a boundary. Can the dog come close to you, and is it going to be under control enough that you can get close enough to do that? And sometimes people get lost in that every dog is super friendly, right? Like any dog I come up to is super friendly. But if you were to do that with a dog that's reactive, you might get bit. You might get bit. And personally, I've seen people just come up to my dogs and grab them, and luckily my dogs are super good and they won't react to a human in that way. But if it was aggressive in any way, you might have a problem. You might get bit.
Yeah.
You approaching a dog like that isn't your best move. It's most people get lost and they don't understand that that's not how you do it. Even the hand up to its face. I think you kind of have to break it down in a logical sense of way. Where would you do that to another person? Would you just walk up to a stranger and be like, hey, boom? No, it's kind of weird. And they have their own language. It's just part of understanding it. And I think as owners, it's part of your responsibility to be like, hey, step back, excuse me, I'm in training. My dog's reactive. So you take control of the situation, and if you're going out to somewhere where your dog might get triggered and you're trying to work that out of them, you have to let people around you know, hey, step back. This is my dog, and it's in training right now. Please don't touch it. And it's simple as that. But, some people might feel a little awkward about that. But those people will never let their dog progress. Like, they'll never let their dog progress because you're not putting them in situations where they can grow from what you want from them, And sometimes you have to start in the household. That doesn't mean, get your dog in check at the mall. Like, don't go training at the mall or at Home Depot right off bat just to socialize a dog. Everything stems from the household. If you don't have your dog under control in the household, that's never going to translate anywhere else. So it's all about baby steps. It's all about baby steps with dogs. It's all about, getting them used to one environment and then maybe adding another environment and then another. So that way you can replicate those same actions of sit, down, come, heel, twist, jump, say hi, any of those commands that you can think of. You have to build those up before exposing him to another environment. So education, man.
Makes a lot of
Yeah.
sense, bro.
Yeah. Okay. What was the other one? What, like, training wise, is there a specific time frame? Do you just start early age, like with puppies? Is there a time frame with, like, I'm gonna say like a toddler style of age for a dog of like 8, well, a year or two, so like that? Is there a certain time frame for those dogs training wise, or is it just, all right, when I need to, like when I go buy one, I need to start training at this moment, you know?
With like all dogs or a certain breed?
Um, I would say in general, but with specific wise, like what you train with now, is there a certain age for them?
So if you're getting a German Shepherd, and if you never owned another dog or a working type of dog, I would recommend you look into training almost right off the rip, because they're a
Okay.
hard dog. They can be stubborn. They can sometimes, because of lack of, proper stimulation, they can get aggressive in certain ways or possessive. So it gets weird, and it's just because the dog never learned a boundary. And so now it started to communicate with its mouth, and it learned that if I growl, I deter people away from me. If I bite, I deter people away from me. So these are things that he never got a correction for or never learned not to do. So then now he's learning through behavior that, hey, if I do these things, they get away, and I can take the McDonald's bag without a problem, or I can take that toy and like do whatever I want with it. It's crazy. It's crazy, man. It's crazy. So with the harder dogs, I would definitely recommend you look for training almost right off rip.
Okay. Now, what about like shelter dogs then? How about, you're getting a dog that's up in age, that's already been with somebody for years. Um, how do you go about, hey, this is how structure is at my house compared to what you're used to? Um, like, how do you go about that then?
I think that's a really good question, bro, because I feel the same way about these harder dogs I feel about shelter dogs. I feel like if you're buying a shelter dog and you're already getting a steal, right? Because
Yeah.
shelter dogs are a fraction of a price of a purebred breeder dog, right? I think you should immediately invest in dog training as well. I think so, because you don't know exactly what you're saying. What is a dog going through? So and even then, I would go specifically to a dog behaviorist if there's any like very severe type of behavior, let it be anxiety or aggression. If you're trying to rescue a specific dog that you're like, yeah, he's crazy, but I want to adopt him, I would definitely go as deep as looking for a behaviorist, someone that is uh, doing behavior modification with your dog, not just obedience or basic training, because they need to understand the behavior of the dog and what it's displaying to get that reaction from the dog. And I think that's a little separate from dog training. So that's my opinion on shelter dogs. And I think I've worked shelter dogs, and shelter dogs were what actually taught me the most about dogs, in my opinion, because pet dogs are a little softer. And by what I mean by that is they've been fed love their entire life. So very minor corrections with them are needed, because they're like, oh, I didn't like that. You poked my ribs. What was that? And that was probably enough to let the dog know, hey, don't touch that. And the dog all of a sudden is like, okay, bro. All right. All right. My bad. Might take you a couple pokes, but he's going to be like, all right, dude, I get it. I won't touch it. All right.
Yeah.
Versus shelter dogs, they've been through some shit, bro.
Yeah.
Like straight up, like they've been through some shit. And sometimes people lose sight, I guess, or don't understand that those places, they're just full of pheromones of fear and anxiety and maybe even sickness from other dogs. So like those dogs are just smelling that all day long, man.
Do you think those dogs ever really heal?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yes.
Absolutely. They definitely heal. There was a really big Rottweiler that I helped my mentor rehabilitate. and his name is Dallas. And well, actually, there's several dogs, but this is the one that I think of because he bit someone in the family a couple times because he was kennel aggressive. So he bit, and he was about to get put down. And so
is kennel aggressive him being in the kennel and
yeah, so him being in a kennel in a enclosed space, he would just be reactive and boom, go after you, dude.
okay.
And so they gave him up to the shelter. The shelter was about to put him down. They're like, yo, listen, man, this dog is crazy. We can't even feed him. Like, the staff has to go close one side of his kennel off, go in, clean, make him go into the other side and close that that side off so they can clean that side and feed him and stuff. Because they couldn't interact with the dog. They couldn't take him out. The dog was just in a cell, bro, you know? And because he was too aggressive. And he definitely displayed a lot of aggression. But this is where dog training and dog behavior and behaviorists really start to separate themselves, because if you don't have that like hand-on experience with these tough dogs, it's really hard to replicate, because your typical pet might not run into it. You know, you might not run into it with your typical pet. Maybe occasionally you do with some of these tougher breeds that someone, you know, wasn't able to correct the dog early on. So now, you know, it's showing teeth or being a little weird. But for the most part, those dogs are easier than any shelter dog I've seen. And I think it's just the environment, brother. It's just the environment, because we took Dallas out of there. My mentor had someone lined up to take him. He's like, hey, he'll be perfect. We're going to put him here, and we're going to have him take care of the estate, you know, watch over it, blah, 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 blah. And Dallas is doing great. Dallas has a Chihuahua little sibling, I guess you could call it, or companion in the pack.
Shout out to Dallas.
Lives with a little girl, and the little girl like sits down with him and hangs on his ears and shit. And apparently they're doing fantastic, man. And there's been a couple other dogs that same thing, man. They were about to be put down. We worked them. We reallocated them, and boom, you know, completely different dog. So that environment alone takes them somewhere that isn't good, you know, like all them pheromones just running around that place of sickness and anger and stress and you know, all that stuff. They just sniffing all day. They're hyped up. They're in a fight or flight mode every day. You know, they're in what's going on out there. I don't know. You know, everything smells weird. So you got to take them out of that environment in order to be able to train them. But you have to train them. And I'm not saying all shelter dogs are like that, but you just have to be careful, man. You never know. Just because a dog was acting one way in the shelter, once you take it out of that environment, it could be acting a different way. So the dog that you pulled out of that shelter might not be the same dog in 2 or 3 weeks, you know? And then it starts displaying some sort of behavior that you don't like. I'd rather nip it immediately. You know, I'd rather, you know, you were thinking about getting this dog. Okay, well, are we dog trainers, or do we know enough about dogs? Do we know enough about this breed to go forward? No, we should probably look into training then. Like, if we're thinking about getting a dog, we should probably look into training. And that's not just me tooting my own horn. I mean, like, just go and find someone that you click with, you know? That doesn't have to be me, but go out there and search for help if you think you need help, you know?
So so shelter dog wise, like if you're going, let's say like I'm going in, I'm wanting to get, you know, like a husky. Like I've always had a fascination with huskies just because of the wolf style look to them, the shepherd style with them, and everything. Like if I'm wanting to get a husky, but I also have like a little terrier or something with me. How does that kind of interaction need to happen if they're both going to be living in the same space in that same house? Granted, like, you know, they're going to be walking around at different times and stuff like that, but if they're going to be interacting at some point in the house, how do you need to go about introductions to a pet that's already that's already stable in the house to a pet that's getting ready to come into that house?
So it depends on the age. Is like that's my biggest variable, I guess. Because if you bring a puppy in, for the most part, another dog is not going to be weird. If your dog's weird around other dogs, then why would you bring a puppy in that house, you know? But if your dog isn't showing any dog aggression and is, you know, socially okay with other dogs, then maybe you should consider getting another dog if you're at that point. And the proper introduction way would, if it was a puppy, you just bring it home, and you got to make the other dog know that that's your puppy, and the way you communicate that is through a boundary. You don't allow the dog to touch the puppy unless you allow him to approach the puppy, and that way you just possess that puppy. This is my puppy. This is mine. You can't touch it unless I touch it. And that's not saying take away the bonding time from it. It's just so it starts to understand the boundary of like, hey, because it might be too rough.
Yeah.
It might be a little too rough with the puppy, and you have to make the boundary of like, hey, stop it. So, but with an older dog, that's where it could get tricky. It depends on your household. It depends on your environment. It depends on, are you trying to bring in a shelter dog? Are you trying to bring in a dog from a breeder that is, looking to a retire dog? And then in that case, I think that falls under the breeder to ask him the right questions of, hey, is this dog good with other dogs? Would I be able to introduce it to my other dog? Oh, does it have any maybe same-sex aggression? These are questions that you should be asking that breeder or whoever you're purchasing an adult dog from before you even purchase the dog. Questions that if you're introducing into your household, how are they going to mesh with your dog? How is your dog? Is it dominant? So do you need a weaker dog to be able to fall a little better into the pack versus a rivalry in the pack? And I'm not saying you can't have two strong dogs in one household. I'm just saying you probably can't do that unless you're a strong handler. And that's where dog knowledge comes into play, dog body language comes into play. And if you're just looking for two pets, then maybe you can do it. It's all about how much do you know about the dog and how much time are you willing to put in, because some of these issues might not be that big of a deal, but some of these issues might take weeks, months before you're able to rehabilitate that dog into a certain mind state. And slow is fast. Some of these dogs, you have to start them off real slow and introduce them to one person at a time, maybe. And then, depending on what's wrong with the dog, So I think it's all about asking the proper questions to the person you're purchasing the dog from. Will that mesh well with your current dog, or will it be a conflict? If it's a conflict, maybe you should consider getting a different dog or a different breed. That's the important part. But I've seen like Dallas and the Chihuahua. You can have big dogs with little dogs. It's not impossible, and it's not like mythological. It's definitely possible. You just have to be a strong owner, and you have to know how to make a boundary with the dog and make them understand like, hey, this is not a desired behavior that you're going to show here, which kind of goes down to what your parents did with you. Hey, you don't do this here, and you don't do this in public. You don't do this anywhere, and you got to chill out. Same concept, man. Same concept with the dogs. So
I just learned so much shit just now.
I saw you over there.
That shit blew my mind. Yeah, I was like, what? Like that shit. Oh, that like like there are things George is literally saying. I was just like, I have never, like, you think dogs because you're like, okay, you can go around them and they're attracted to you because you're like, okay, like I must be, some kind of vibe, some kind of energy that I'm giving off to these dogs, or like they're like, oh, I got to be around this person. But in reality, like they're just like, oh,
thinking you the shit.
I'm just being, yeah, like they're just like, oh, I'm either like I've got some actual like social anxiety, so I'm just all up on everybody and stuff. But now I'm looking at it, I'm like, oh, okay, well that makes a lot of sense for a lot of these dogs I see out in public now, because now I'm gonna be sitting there like diagnosing dogs when I go out in public. Like, listen,
that was a
buddy,
key one for me when you mentioned the social awkwardness part. I had to put myself in the dog's shoes and be like, oh shit, they can be socially awkward too.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying? I wasn't thinking of it that deeply, so that totally stuck out to me. I'm like, man, we are very similar in a lot of ways.
Very similar. Very similar.
That's wild.
It's a different language, bro. Crazy. It's all about learning the language. Yeah. And I'm sure, like, low key, he's basically a dog trainer. Like he just needs to practice, like put some of this theory into practice. Because I've talked to him so much about dogs, bro. So much about dogs.
No doubt.
Yeah, like he's low key all in theory right now. All he needs to do is put it into practice, bro. Because I've talked to him so much about behavior and like how this is like not okay to do, and that isn't a natural response from the dog. And he's just been like, shit, man. Like I've been having dogs all wrong.
Well, it's funny because when you tell me shit, I go out and I start seeing it, and I'll be like, "Oh fuck, I know what's going on with that motherfucker." So what I have learned from him, I've been analyzing dogs, and I have gotten closer to understanding them in a way. You know what I'm saying? Through his tutelage, so I can notice specific things, you know, that he's told me, and it always makes me think of him when I see a dog. Like, say if I see a dog acting a certain way, and something rings a bell in my head that he's told me, and I'm like,
there it is.
George pops in my head.
There it is. and that's part of the job, man. That's part of the job, because you're just shedding light to some of these dog owners of like, okay, so every time he does this, this is what he does. And they're like, yeah. And I'm like, let's correct that behavior then. Like you already know what he's doing and how he's gonna do it before he even does it. So before he even does it, correct it. You're like, hey, what are you doing? Snap out of that. Hey, over here. You know? And it's as simple as that sometimes, bro. And people get lost in that. They just get lost, bro.
I think some people, they feel like they're being aggressive towards their dog if they correct them. I think they have the two mixed up.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
I can definitely see that, and I've definitely had some people that are like, "Oh, we don't hit our dogs."
Yeah,
here.
things like
and I'm
that.
like, "Yo, lady, I don't know what you thought I came in here to do, but I'm not gonna hit your dog at all. I'm gonna poke it, and that's about as hard as I'm gonna poke it. That's it." And people are like, "No," and I'm like, "Watch," and the dog's like, "Whoa, okay, I didn't like that. What do you want me to do?" And it's just people are definitely scared to do a correction. And I think it's because they don't understand that there's different types of corrections. And you don't have to like kick your dog to make it understand, you know? You don't have to punch it to make it understand. A simple tap, because even touch for us is important. If I want you to pay attention, hey.
You instantly, if I was looking that way, I'd instantly be.
Yep, you're looking and you're focusing. It's the same thing with dogs. Touch is very important for them as well. The only way they can communicate is through their mouth. And so a lot of people also lack I think, dog-to-dog interaction in general, like as a visual. Because even from when the dogs are puppies, and the mom, the way it corrects the puppies is by a quick little nip. Hey, don't do that. Hey, stop. And that's their natural communication, which, like, it could be viewed as violent, right? Oh my God, she just bit him a little bit. Yeah, well, she was telling him, don't do that. We don't do that here. And that's why I also
their way
think
of parenting.
It's important to probably even keep puppies up to 10 weeks with their parents. A lot of people want to get rid of dogs at 8 weeks. I think the extra little 2 weeks with the extra time with the siblings and maybe even parents will go a long way with the dog-to-dog communication that won't like hurt your dog in the long run. It'll benefit it. You know, it got a lot of correction and dog-to-dog communication. So now as it grows up, it's going to understand better how to communicate with dogs in general. Because you're about to put it into your home and contaminate it with a bunch of human shit. Like, that's what we do, you know? We just take them in and we contaminate it with a bunch of human stuff. And so he's going to get lost in translation if he doesn't have enough exposure to that. So I personally think 10 weeks is really, really good to wait that extra 2 weeks that like other people wait, because everyone's like 8 weeks. I'm getting rid of the puppies at 8 weeks. I think if you can get a dog at 10 weeks that has a lot more exposure with all that dog-to-dog communication, you yourself could get a dog that's better in the long run. It's socially better. Maybe has a little less anxiety because it got corrected in the way it needed to be like, oh, okay, we don't do that here. Okay, we're just going to be calm now. Like, we're not going to cry in the corner. It's crazy, man. It's crazy.
Yeah. What about so you see, like, there's sometimes I've seen like little videos and stuff of like dogs taking themselves as like the alpha in the house completely, no matter who's there, no matter who's like, hey, like don't do that. But they're not. I take it like these owners aren't, doing any kind of like corrections whatsoever at all. So the dog's instincts or instincts is, I run
This
this
is
house,
this is
like
my house
y'all are
now.
my bitches basically. Yeah,
This is
yeah.
my house now.
How do
I
how
run
do
it
how
here.
does how does how does training and correction for an alpha dog like that, to let them know like, hey, you're still an alpha dog, but in this household I am the alpha, like how does that training go about? How does that work?
So for the most part, this is some of the craziest shit I've ever heard in my life. So I'm sure you're gonna feel the same way. But when I went to go
Oh yeah.
work with my mentor, shout out to Uncle Jess, by the way,
Hey.
he was the one that exposed me to the shelter. And the shelter were the aggressive
Hmm.
dogs that, right, like they would be in that mental state of I'm the alpha, right? Like don't come in here.
Hmm.
And what I learned from that is a lot of that shit is smoke and mirrors. A lot of that shit is smoke and mirrors, bro. And it's really crazy to see hands on some dude just, and this is, dude, like, all right, so this is a really good topic because I was like, I wasn't even doing anything as a business yet. Like
Get comfortable.
I was shadowing my mentor and going to the shelter and watching this dude hiss at the dog, use the door as a barrier to push him back so he couldn't push forward, even though he's giving him all his might, right? He's barking, he's trying to nip
Mm-hmm.
at the fence, at the gate, and he's going all crazy, and he's just popping it a little bit in the back, so he takes a step back and popping him a little bit and hissing at the same time, and then all of a sudden this dog's like, what the heck is going on? And it's starting to calm down, and then he starts doing the same thing once it gets closer because he's creating a boundary through the fence for him.
Mm-hmm.
He's using the gate to open as a boundary, and he's pushing the dog back while this dog's giving it all his might, right? Like just going crazy, bonkers. I'm looking at him like this dude is out of his fucking mind, bro. This dude's out of his mind. This dude's out of his mind. He's crazy. He's gonna get bit, bro. He's gonna get bit. What am I doing? This is crazy. This is what I signed up for. This is what I'm trying to do. This is insane. And then he just puts a leash on them. And then as soon as the leash is on and he controls the head, dog's like, okay, what are we doing? We going outside? All right, let's go outside. Bro, crazy. And then
What?
he would go outside and then he would work the dog, and he would make the dog understand through leash pressure boundaries. And dude, this is a dog that was lunging at the gate, bro. Like people said it had a bite history.
Mm-hmm.
People like, dude, dogs that if you like me as the like not even dog trainer level that I was at, I was a complete novice trying to figure shit out, and I was shadowing him, and I'm like, what the fuck is going on? This dude just went in there without a problem. This dog was just going crazy,
Mm-hmm.
and he just through presence and a boundary, he just walked in there, put a leash on, and was like, all right, let's go. Bro, I was like, what the fuck is going on right now?
That's the type of shit that inspires you in those moments, man.
And dude,
Yeah.
absolutely, man. It was inspirational to see this man just go in there and be like, yo, we're gonna fix this dog, bro. And I'm like, what? Dude, do you see that dog? You see how some of these were big dogs, bro? They're like 100-pound dogs. Dallas was, I think, like 110, 120-pound dog, bro.
Mm-hmm.
He's a big dog, man. Big dog. And homie, bro, crazy, man. Crazy. He did get bit by Dallas, but he admitted it was his mistake. It was his mistake because instead of letting the dog go in with the leash on and then figure out later how to take it off, he went in there and grabbed him by the neck in the kennel. The mistake was he was in the kennel and grabbed him by the neck, and the dog went boop real quick and gave him a little snatch. And the amazing part about that was that the shelter was like, yep, that's it. You got bit. We're going to put him down. And he was like, no. That was my fault. That was 100% my fault. Give me another chance. We're going to fix him. Don't worry. We're going to show you we can fix him. And now he's somewhere living his best fucking life, dude. Somewhere living his best life, and he was going to get put down, bro. So this is like the crazy part about dog training is it's a lot of counterintuitive shit that you're like, nah, that's like, it's crazy, dude. That's not gonna work. That's not gonna work. And I'm like, watch this work real quick. And that was happening when I was shadowing my mentor. I had a lot of theory from books and podcasts and all this information that I gathered throughout the years of me like subconsciously just being interested in dog training. and it didn't. None of that came into play until I went to the shelter, and I was like, oh shit, okay, all right, this is legit, and like this is crazy. This is really crazy. And because I made some of the mistakes that dog owners make with my first dog that I still have, and is like, she couldn't go close to other dogs. Now she's a dog that I bring to clients' houses to be like, oh, she's fine. I'm gonna put her in a downstay, and we're gonna work around her.
Mm-hmm.
And she's the dog that just sits there, and she's like, and she was leash reactive. She was people reactive. Like I couldn't bring her around other people on a leash.
I remember when she was wilding.
Yeah, wilding, bro. And now she's a dog that I bring over to clients' houses to be like, hey, look, I'm gonna put her in a downstay, and we're gonna work your dog around her, so the dog knows that you know it doesn't need to get overly stimulated when it sees another dog.
Yeah, she's super chill now. I go over his crib and she's just chilling now. Whereas before she was just sporadic all over the place.
For sure, man.
So it's been cool to see that progress, you know what I'm saying? And you know, you're gonna take that care with your dog. So it's been cool to see you not only identify any issues, but be like, okay, how can I fix this? How can I make this better? So
yeah,
it's been real. Absolutely. It's been real cool to see, because I know that takes a lot of discipline and responsibility and a lot of patience, because I know you deal with a lot of frustration and shit.
A lot of patience. A lot.
So, yeah,
bro, that's something I talk about all the time. Like I think the dogs help mellow me out from like this aggressive young man, because it teaches you to be patient with your dog, because your dog just doesn't know any better. And you just can't, and you can't get frustrated with the dog when you're training. You have to look happy. You have to make it a happy environment for them to be like, okay, when we do this, we're doing good things. But if you're training your dog and you're like stiff the entire time, giving it a frown, the dog's like, what the fuck is going on? Why is he upset the entire time?
He's like, what did I do?
Why is he upset? Because you're like, sit down, stay. You know, you're giving your dog a frown the entire time. The dog's like, what the fuck?
Every time he gets a command, he's like, ah.
But if you were happy, your dog's probably going to be a little happier when you're training it. Yeah. You know, it's
the attitude.
Attitude goes like a long way, man. And when even myself as a dog trainer, I've, you know, gone through obstacles where I'm like, all right, man, I got to chill for a little bit. Like this session isn't going the way it's supposed to be going. So we're going to put the dog away. We're going to go inside. We're going to sit with our thoughts for a little bit. We're going to chill out. We're going to mellow out because we're a little frustrated, and you're not going to get anywhere if you're frustrated. So, you know, I just chill out, maybe listen to some music, you know, maybe start cleaning. I get my mind off of it. 5 minutes pass, 30 minutes pass, maybe 20 minutes pass, whatever the time is. I'm like, all right, let's go work this dog again. And then the next session, fucking perfect. You know, but maybe I was making little mistakes and not being happy enough that the dog was getting overwhelmed. You know, like it's just little things like that I, even as a dog trainer, I struggle through. And the moment that I start to get frustrated, I stop. I'm like, all right, we're good. We're gonna put you away, and we're gonna come at this later. And then depending on how you do later is you know what we're gonna do next, and what we're gonna work on next, and how we're gonna work it. And then you just slowly build up commands and environments to make your dog grow. And it all stems from the household. As long as you practice those basic obediences or whatever you're into, you know, like maybe you like your dog doing high five. That's kind of like an obedience command. You know, you're asking the dog to do a command and it does it. So you can make that a little drill before you feed them. You know, sit down, paw, down, boom, go eat. And that's a little drill. You just did a little drill. Because it's a lifestyle, man. And the more freedom you give the dog, the more the dog gets lost, bro. And then the more you find yourself having behavioral issues with whatever dog. It could be a Chihuahua, man. It doesn't even matter. It doesn't even matter.
I want to ask, for the people out there, can you tell the people what are some great ways to exercise with your pet? To make it a you thing, a together thing, not just exercising them.
So I walk with my dogs, and I think the walk is very important because especially when you're doing a structured walk and it's in a heel and it's not sniffing around and doing all this nonsense that most owners I see doing. The common problem I see in just lost in communication with your dog is the fact that when I see humans take their dogs for a walk, they're on their phone the entire time. the dog is on the leash and just doing whatever it wants, and they're just on their phone, and then it poops, they pick it up, then they continue to walk. The dog stops to sniff, they stop, they let him sniff, then they get annoyed, and they're like, oh, let's go, let's go, let's go. And then maybe dog starts walking, or maybe dog continues to sniff, right? That's like a really big common issue that I see.
That's my neighborhood.
And I think the walk is such an important ritual to have in a healed manner, in a structured heel, where you're like, all right, this is where we're going, this is what we're doing. You're not sniffing, you're not like going over to check out that other dog or that lady that's watering her plants. We're in motion, and I might take a random right, I might take a random left, I might turn around and go the other way, but you're going to have to follow me, and you're going to have to follow me next to me. That is a really good way to exercise your dog if you're obviously going for a long enough walk. And that depends on your breed. Maybe your breed, you can go for a mile walk or less than a mile walk, and boom, your dog's fine, plenty of exercise. But maybe you have a more athletic dog like a Belgian Malinois, and that dude requires a lot of activity to be worn out. Those things are like the velociraptors.
I lived with one of those.
Fucking the dog world, bro. And they just have so much energy, man. And if you don't channel that energy right, they get crazy, man. So with those dogs, maybe you require more of a 4 or 5 mile fucking run. You know, again, going back to research your breed. And if you're going to have to change your lifestyle for that dog, that might be a thing. You really want that dog? Do you want to run 3 miles a day? No? Maybe that's not the dog for you. You know? And I'm not saying you can't find a nice, chill Belgian Malinois that's just going to be a couch potato. I'm sure you could. But then that's where you're going to a breeder and you're going and asking them, hey, man, like, this is what I'm looking for. These are the temperaments that I would need for my lifestyle. And then the breeder might be able to direct you a little bit better to what type of dog you need. But if you're going through the shelter, you don't know what you're getting. And like I said before, you pick up that dog from the shelter, and then 3 weeks later, that dog is different. Month later, that dog is a completely different dog. And now what do? Now, not only do you bond with the dog, but now it's kind of crappy to get rid of it. And even then, man, I saw plenty of dogs get taken back to the shelter. We went 1 week, they were gone. Next week, they were back. Oh, he growled. Boom. That's it. They don't want to deal with it. Back to the shelter. So it's crazy, man. It's crazy. I think it just comes down to, if you want a dog, really start asking yourself, am I willing to change my life? Because that's what happened with me. When I first got Azula, I was a punk 22-year-old, and it ended up giving me structure because, I can't go out. I'm sorry, I have to go let my dog out. My dog's been in the crate since I went to work. I have to go let my dog out. Or been in the house, like whatever it was, you know? And I had to go. You know, I did, no matter what time it was, I was like, it's time to go let the dog out. And it gave me more structure because I couldn't just let the dog chill there for a long period of time without it going to the bathroom, you know, regardless if it could hold it or not. You as a human, you just feel bad because when you want to go to the bathroom, you just get up and go. So as a human, I was like, dude, I got to go let my dog out. And granted, now they're at a point where if I leave for a long period, they'll hold it. But I don't really like those situations. You know, I don't enjoy doing that to them because they should be able to go whenever they could. So that's my intake on that.
What do you tell the people that are wanting to get into dog training? And then what do you tell the people that they're still trying to figure out what kind of dog, like they know they want a dog, but they're like, I don't know the type that that I'm wanting at the time, because each dog's got like a different kind of, I'm gonna say, like, atmosphere to them, you know, because certain, like, huskies, I've heard, like, huskies have to be, they've got to stay cool. They're already thick furred and everything. They got to stay in a cooler climate. So what do you tell the people that are trying to get into dog training, and then what do you tell the people that are trying to figure out, like, their dog, like, how they should set up their house for their certain dog that they're wanting?
Well, I guess it just depends on your needs, like what are you looking for? Like what dog are you looking for? And if you're asking me my professional opinion on it, like, I'm going to start asking you questions like, do you have enough space for that? Do you have enough time for that? Are you committed enough for that? And some people, and it's funny because my mentor goes through the same thing where I shadowed him recently to go to Miami, and one of his clients hit him up while we were on the road, and he picks up and he's breaking down like what the types of dogs he wants, and like, blah, 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 blah. And he went through the same questions I would ask, which is, what, like, how much time are you willing to put into it? How committed are you to this? Like, some of these dogs are tougher than the other dogs you're mentioning, and he just broke down the pros and cons of what do you want out of the dog, and how are you going to go about it? Like, are you going to work this dog often? Are you looking more for your couch potato? Like, what's your vibe? And he was stuck on a Belgian, but my mentor was like, okay, I mean, if you're stuck on a Belgian, you're stuck on a Belgian, and I'll start looking for like a more low drive temperament kind of Belgian for you, because he's not a very active person. This is what he was telling him. He's like, I'll start keep an eye for it, and this is my mentor talking to his client, because he has connections with breeders. He's been doing it for 25 years, so he has connections to breeders that he can hit up and be like, hey, like, a client's looking for this sort of temperament. Like, let me know if you see anything. He goes, checks them out, and then maybe purchases them or not. Maybe he goes somewhere else. That's something he does. But it's the same thing that I would tell you. Like what's going on? Like, if you really, really want that dog, okay, well, maybe you should start looking into breeders and being in frequent communication with whatever aesthetically type of dog that you might like, and being like, hey, like, how do you run your kennels, and what do you look for in your dogs? Like, do you breed for temperament, or do you build for work lines? Like, there's different things that you should be asking a breeder when going breed specific.
That's a lot. Because I never figured, like, I figured it was always like, okay, like, I'm gonna use my friend for example. Like, she's got like a feisty terrier mix, and Theo is like a shepherd husky and something else. Like, he's got like the Rottweiler like
Mask
crown pieces, yeah, but he's got the ears of the shepherd. He's got the length of the shepherd, but he's got the hair of a husky. And so, like, I was just like, now that you say all that, I'm like, oh, well, that makes a lot of sense of why that style, like these styles of dogs, kind of have their own different ways of how they go about things.
For sure.
And I lost my train of thought too, because I was getting ready to ask something like deeper on another question, but it'll come back to me later on. It probably won't, but it'll come back. So,
what are some of the common health issues you see in dogs that people should be aware of if they want to own a dog?
Again, it's crazy, but every specific breed has their own individual genetic either diseases or possibility of diseases, so it doesn't. So some breeders will do tests for German Shepherds for their hips and their elbows, because it's very common to do that. They have hip dysplasia. So some breeders will provide you with that information from, the mom and the dad. So when you buy a puppy, because you can't tell when they're puppies, they're like, hey, listen, these two dogs are proven to be good. So sometimes they give you like a health certificate or something like that, saying, hey, like, they should be okay, and your dog shouldn't ever develop hip dysplasia. And you have, you can show as a breeder, like, hey, this is the information I have to show you. So I'm sure that again goes down by breeds specific characteristics, where some breeders are going to tell you that, for this dog I test for this and this and he's clear, and for this dog I test for this and this and they're clear. They all individually have genetic problems, and that's where it comes down to, talk to your breeder. And if you're going through a good breeder, he should be giving you all this information. He should be able to provide with you, this is a generation and generation thing of German Shepherds, Golden Retrievers, Great Danes, whatever it is. And that's how you track some of that stuff. And some breeders will guarantee that they won't develop that, but sometimes you can't tell until they're older, you know. But if you're buying a young adult, you're probably in the safe, you know. If you're buying a 1-year-old or a 2-year-old from a breeder and they haven't developed any issues, then you're probably in the green, you know. So,
well, it looks like that something that keeps repeating is things being breed specific. So I just want to stress to the people out there,
for sure,
whatever breed that you would like, when you get that breed, really get in tune with that specific breed and everything that that breed needs, because it's such a wide gene pool
for sure,
that it's like, I understand why it's breed specific. You know what I'm saying? Because it's so many mixtures and things of that nature. So you guys out there, definitely get in tune with whatever breed that you choose, so that you could best take care of them, you know, and everything that they need, from their health to like you were saying, if they're workers, what kind of exercise they need. Do they need a walk, or do they need a 5-mile run? You know, things like that. You have to consider all these things beyond just the aesthetic of it, and that dog looks cute to me, or that dog looks cool to me, or I think this dog is going to protect me. You know what I'm saying? You have to look a lot deeper in order to really give that animal what it deserves, you know?
Something crazy that I found is that a lot of people have the misconception that their dog is going to protect them. For the most part, from what I've seen, unless you train that dog to protect you in your household, that is very unlikely.
I'm glad you said
very
But
unlikely.
I was thinking that.
So it's either running or probably greeting that stranger happily. Depends on your dog, right? But yeah, so unfortunately, that's a misconception that a lot of people have, that if you buy a certain breed, you're just gonna be able to have them in the house and it's gonna protect you. It doesn't always work that way.
That's very important. That's very important for people to know.
Yeah,
for sure. Were you gonna say something?
Is that something that you gotta kind of, you can't really condition a dog to be like, hey, this is my child, this is your sibling, your human sibling, this is dad, this is mom. Like you can't look at a dog and say, hey, these are the people you got to protect. Is that something they just like instinctively do, or is that something that they just like over time of, this is my, like they after a while in their head, this is my family. Anybody that I don't recognize in this house is a predator at this point. Like I've got to protect what's mine here. Is that something over time, or is that something that they just like you got to tell them?
So some dogs kind of have that instinct in them, and that still doesn't mean that they're going to be able to bite and identify a threat. All that stuff is usually trained into a dog, and certain dogs are just a little quicker to pick it up. But I've seen online, like never personally, but online, I've seen some crazy shit. Like I've seen a golden do bite work. I saw a border collie do bite work, and that's essentially being able to send a dog out to bite something. And that's kind of where like personal protection kind of stems from. And you, depending on each individual character of dog, is what you're going to get out of it. Some dogs might just pick up on the biting of the sleeve, but they might not commit as hard. Like a border collie might not commit as hard as a German Shepherd. You know, a border collie might be able to get fended off, versus a German Shepherd for years has been genetically selected to be guard dogs. So, like, you know, they just kind of have that natural instinct of watching and guarding over. And again, that still doesn't mean that it's going to protect you. It's something that you probably have to look into getting a trainer and individually channeling personal protection. And that gets wild, where you can train a dog to protect a certain individual, and it will not allow anyone to come, I think, 5 feet of it. It will deter it. And then if it breaks the threshold of 3 feet, it'll bite it. So it gets crazy, man. The personal protection world is really, really crazy. It's something I'm trying to get into. I recently posted some stuff about working with a dog in Miami named Tango, and that was a big dog, and that's probably one of the hardest bites I've ever taken from a dog. you can feel the pressure even through the sleeve of how hard they're biting. And usually when you feel that, that means how hard they're committing to the bite. That means how hard they're like, nah, bro, I'm not gonna let you fucking get away with this. And so
have you done the full suit yet?
Yeah, bro, that's like so awkward doing the full suit because you have a like less range of mobility in that thing. You're constricted. And so it gets a little awkward to like jump around like a marshmallow man, but it's really fun taking those bites. I mean, some people probably think I'm crazy for doing it, but it's just fun. It's in a controlled environment. It's not like we're just teaching dogs to just bite random shit. It's through controlled chaos per se. It's controlled chaos that once the handler says out, the dog's like, hey, what's up? It's fine. And you can go up to the dog in the full suit and you can pet it and you can touch it, and the dog's just like, okay, he said out, so I have to chill here. You can touch me now. And then the moment it says the attack word, dog turns on again, and he's on your leg, he's on your arm. So it's fun, man. And you get to play around with different scenarios. You get to play the bad guy when you're a decoy. Like you gotta act all crazy and shit. So you have to play the bad guy, and I think it's fun. And then as a handler, it's empowering to have this fucking like 100-pound dog just rah, 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 just barking and trying to get at something. It's empowering, dude. It's crazy. It's a lot of power just sitting at like through a leash, that you're grabbing a leash and letting him know like, hey, you can bark at that and probably bite it. And they just go crazy, dude. They just go crazy.
Now, the first time you did that, did the strength surprise you? Like, say you're running, as soon as it grabs onto you, did that really surprise you, the strength of the bite and the pull?
110%. So you watch these videos online. Before I got into dog training, I would watch videos online of people dog handling and doing decoy work, right? And these dogs are tossing people, bro. Or even like sometimes the Chive TV sitting at like, a bar or something, they'll have it and they'll play like dog stuff, and they'll play those videos of people in decoy suits and dogs being sent out, and then they get twisted around and stuff. I really was like, I can't be that crazy. And then you experience it and you're like, holy shit, this makes a lot of sense, man. Because it's the dog coming at you, launches, and then it kind of just like lets go like of the rest of his body. It just like kind of like goes almost limp with the
like
inertia.
A torpedo?
Yeah. The torpedo grabs you and the rest of it just goes limp with the motion. And sometimes they take you down. And I'm fortunately a big dude, so I haven't really had it go down that way yet. But I'm sure my day is coming, man. I'm sure my day is coming, because I've been close to a couple times where I was like, oh shit, and they're about to take me. But luckily, I'm a big dude and I haven't been taken down yet. But it's coming, bro. It's coming. And you feel the pressure of their jaw, man, it's crazy. You have a suit on or you have a sleeve on, and it's bunch of protection and padding and meant for you not to get punctured, but the punctures don't take away from pressure.
Yeah,
dude.
you still feel that crushing.
Dude, you feel that crushing PSI that's trying to rip through your bones, ligaments, muscles, like that. They're trying to rip your limbs off, bro, and it's insane. It's insane, bro, to feel that power in your forearm or in your leg. Like, and then some of these hard dogs, like, they're trained to go at you harder if you fight them. Like, they're trained to, if you start fighting, because some of these dogs might be, for a wealthy family, that they want protection, and the way they want protection is through a dog. Or it could be a celebrity, it could be a security company that they're counting on you having a dog that's not going to break. Because if your dog breaks, how good of a personal protection trainer are you? Your dog's supposed to kind of like risk it all for the biscuit, and if the dog decides to not commit, then your dog's a little flawed. Your dog isn't doing the job it's supposed to be doing, and that goes into like crazy scenarios, like possibly like military or police. They got to make sure, or even personal protection, they got to make sure that dog is going to commit. It's going to commit for you. It's going to commit for the safety of you and your family, or just yourself or your kids, whatever you want to train it to do. Protect your wife, so it gets crazy, man. It gets really crazy in that department. And the way they train these dogs to specifically handle even weapons, to identify that you have a weapon in your hand, so they go for the hand with the weapon, so they neutralize you. It's insane, dude. It's insane some of the work that these people are doing out there with some of these dogs, man. It's crazy, bro.
It's interesting
and
shit.
some of these dogs are like those aggressive breeds we're talking about, that they're meant to be doing a job, man. Some of these breeds are like your Rottweilers, your German Shepherds, your Dobermans. So they're out there doing crazy stuff. Your Belgian Malinois, like they're crazy, man. They're a super athletic dog.
Yeah, just watch some of those videos on them. They fucking can just scale ridiculously high walls and shit.
Insane. I can't even do that. You know what I mean? It's like, what the fuck? And the crazier part about some of these dogs is I particularly have a male that I have to put a stop to him. Like I have to be like, all right, we're done playing, bro. We're done playing, because he'll play himself to death. Like he will, whatever we're doing, like he's like, dude, I'll keep fucking doing it. I'll keep doing it. I'm tired. I'm about to have a heat stroke. I don't care. I'll keep going for it. I don't care. Like he is hard, bro. He is a hard dog. He's crazy, bro. But yeah, I as an owner have to be like, all right, man, you're getting a little crazy. We gotta go. You know, we gotta go. We gotta get you water. We gotta start cooling you down, because you're getting too crazy. You know, and it's crazy. It's literally insane to watch these dogs just want to go after whatever it is over and over. And that could be translated to dock diving. That could be translated to climbing up those walls. Like they just have a drive to do something. So it's crazy, man.
All right, Mr. Smooth, you got a last question for our esteemed guest before we close it out, man?
I don't. I'm just in awe, man. Like,
You
I
got
just
a lot
learned.
to. You
I
got a
feel
lot
like
to soak in.
I feel like I went to school. Yeah, I will. I feel like I went
went
to
to
school and I just got like
school.
all this knowledge. But you know how school is. Like school, like you got to regurgitate that. You got to put it back out there on paper and stuff. Like this right here, I'm like,
You're never gonna see dogs the
this
same
is
again.
Nah, bro.
no, because
probably not.
now I'm like a hands-on person. Like I can do it with my own self now. So I'm
You'll
like,
be able to tell too. You'll be
it's
like, oh,
fascinating.
that dog's
Yeah,
weird. Like it's so
yeah,
crazy. Because I always kind of translate it back to us, man. You know, if I was too fidgety or if I was too forward with you, you'd be like, get the back the fuck up, bro.
yeah,
Give me some
yeah.
fucking space real quick, all right? I don't know who you are. You just approached me like, maybe if we knew each other, you know, and you already knew that I came with some weird fucking ticks and problems, maybe, you know, like you'd be like, all right, whatever. He's just being a weirdo. He's just being him or whatever, right?
Yeah.
But if I'm a complete stranger and I come up to you and do some crazy shit, you're probably gonna be like, whoa, bro, can you give me some space? Back up. Stranger danger, brother. Same thing with dogs, bro. And you're gonna start seeing these like unnatural behaviors. You're gonna start being like, oh snap, that's what he was talking about. And you're gonna start making these connections, because it goes over our head, man. It goes over our head a lot of times.
All right, Mr. Jorge. Tell the people where they can reach you, how they can get in contact with you, how you can help them take care of their pets.
So my most active social media is Instagram, and it's Pointy Ear Training, and it's pointy like, you know, pointy ears. And the website's also pointyeartraining.com. So if you want to just go check out the website, you can. Instagram's where I mostly post, you know, where I work with clients and the dogs that I've worked, my own dogs, and what I do, and et cetera, et cetera. And all my information is on there. My email, my phone number, and, you know, it's probably one of the easiest ways to contact me is through IG. So Pointy Ear Training.
Contact my man. As you see, he's a wealth of information. He has a passion for it, and he's dedicated to it. So show my man some love, man. If you're having any issues with your dogs,
we can fix it.
Hit him up, baby. Mr. Smooth, you got anything to plug? What you want to say to the people before we roll out of here?
First, I want to just mention this freaking painting behind me, because I moved what I used to have up there. So I gotta give a shout out to my friend Katie. She's in the midst of moving, but this is one of her paintings that she does. She does like finger painting. She does brush painting. She's wanting to get into like spray painting stuff. So I've got some letters. Once I move into my new office space, I'll have some letters that she'll have painted out for me and everything. But I've got this one and another one, but the skills is just there. So shout out to Katie for this painting. I want to appreciate that.
Shout out to Katie. That's a beautiful painting back there.
Thank you. So Other than that, man, that's about it. That's about it. I appreciate you, Jorge, for joining us, man. Like I said, I just learned. I
He
learned so
called me
fucking
by
much
my
today.
government name, bro. Wow.
I'm happy you guys finally got to meet, man.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, man. It's a
So,
pleasure, man.
yes, sir. Yes, sir. Always. It's a pleasure. It's my pleasure because I just this has been a long time coming, man. We've been talking about this podcast. We've been talking about having a podcast for so long, and then we finally looked at each other and said, "Fuck it,
Let's
we're gonna
do
nip
it.
it in the bud and start it."
Yeah,
so,
boy. Let's do it.
so
Love to
man,
see it, bro. Love to see it.
and then now getting to having people on has been a huge honor because we've just when we talk amongst ourselves throughout the week, and we're excited all the time, and we're just like, yeah, we're about to have such and such on, and we're gonna talk about this and this and this. And then it always like we'll get on this base of like where we need to go with stuff, but it carries on for a little bit, but we get so lost with it after a
Oh
while.
yeah,
Um,
I love it too.
so it's a pleasure. It's so much fun to just do it like this. So like I said, I appreciate you for coming on, being our guest, our special guest here, man. So hopefully more down the road of having you back on with us also, and you can bring Azula on with you, and we can see that in live.
Well, bro, when you come down here, we gotta get a couple motherfuckers in here and do an episode.
Oh yeah. Hell yeah, bro.
Yeah.
Hell yeah. We'll get down with it.
So we gonna make that happen. We're gonna make that shit happen.
For sure. For sure. I'm with it. All
right, my brother. You got any last things to say to the folks out there?
Be good or be good at it. That's it.
Good shit.
That's
good
it.
Shit. Mm-hmm. All right, everybody. That was another episode of the Shinobi podcast. Thank you for coming through, brother. We appreciate you.
For inviting me, brother.
We appreciate you for adding some value, adding some information.
Yes.
I hope you guys learned a lot out there. He said a lot. There's a lot to absorb. You're just gonna have to look back on this episode and pick everything out. But thank you guys for joining us on another episode of the Shinobi podcast. Man, we doing it, man. We doing it, and we bringing the family in. That's how you do that thing,
yes,
though,
sir.
man. Like that's what it's all about, man. Remember to hit us up on Instagram, TikTok. We are now on Facebook, so we're gonna get a little more involved on Facebook. Start doing some lives on there as well. Yeah, man. We just we going with the flow. This whole process, man. You know, we're not rushing it, and we appreciate you guys for being patient with us. I can't even talk. I'm tired. But yeah, much love to everybody, man. And remember, when we post on our stories for you guys to come and the group chat into the studio, come on in. We want to interact with you guys, man. We want you guys to be part of these conversations. We want you guys to be a part of this as we grow with us, man, because we growing every day, man. We don't want to leave y'all in the dust, bro. So jump on now or get left. But we appreciate, we love y'all. I hope you guys got some great information today. I was happy to have him here today. Mr. Smooth, always happy for us to link up, man.
Yes, sir.
Appreciate all you guys, man. And let's keep doing this thing. We'll definitely have you back on for another episode. That's for certain. Yeah. And and we're just gonna keep this thing rolling, man. So like always, be good to yourself and be good to one another. We'll see y'all on the next one, man. Shinobi Podcast signing out. Peace.